And then one other thing I wanted to touch on, you mentioned the investor DNA. That was a huge benchmark for me, Jeff, as I was going down this rabbit hole, because I got to the point where, okay, infinite banking makes sense. Dividend paying whole life insurance, absolutely love it. I've done my research. I've weighed the pros and cons. This is a complete no-brainer to me. Okay. So I set up the policies. I have 2 policies right now. The next phase of that is, how do I deploy this capital? How do I use it? Right? How do I use these policies to accelerate the wealth building process in my life? Because I don't want the money to just sit there. Right? The policies are going to grow. That's fine. But are we going to get rich on 4% compound growth? It helps. Okay, but that's not why we set up the policies. I want to now utilize these policies to actually build wealth, not buy groceries, not go on vacation, not buy a ton of depreciating assets. I did use my policy to purchase the car because of the lost opportunity cost that it saves. But I also funded and capitalized my policy in a way that I could do that and I could still build wealth, which is the next phase for me, going down the journey of discovering, like, what is my investor DNA? What resonates with me? And it was private money lending. Right now, that's where I'm at. That's my favorite way to build wealth right now, because it's very passive. It's much safer than people think it is. When you do it right, when you actually do your research, when you commit to educating yourself about it, it's actually far less risky, in my opinion, than the stock market, and you get really good returns. I lent my money out at 12% plus points. Why on earth would I ever mess with the stock market? Now, again, nothing wrong with the stock market. If your investor DNA says, yes, I want to be involved in the market, that's where I'm going to get the most growth, do it. I don't care. But Jeff, you said it perfect, is discovering what your own investor DNA is. Having this whole life policy, custom designed, set up properly, is now going to be an incredibly powerful, strong financial foundation that's going to empower you to build wealth via your own investor DNA so much better, in my opinion and in my experience. All right. It's not just an opinion. I'm speaking from personal experience, setting up policies, using them to build wealth. It's absolutely phenomenal. Right. But you got to commit to going down that journey. So yeah, just a couple things on that. Like I said, I'll throw it back to you because we could talk about that stuff for hours, but yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, all great points, man. One of the things you spoke of early on there was talking about, the death benefit, and reminded me of what Tom Wall says, and I think the name of his book, Permission to Spend, and that when you have whole life in your portfolio, and I've been seeing this with the one particular client I was referencing earlier that had 70%, still in the market. One of the things that we've been encouraging her to do is spend her money. She's worked extremely hard, sacrificed her entire working career. Now it's time to enjoy, the fruits of your labor.
Otherwise, what did you make it all for?
Exactly.
Time to enjoy it.
And you've got, she's got this security in a way that, I've got this nice portfolio, but beyond that, she's still living a, kind of scrimped lifestyle. She's holding on to her money. She doesn't want to let it go. And one of the things that Tom Wall talks about, he's got a PhD in retirement planning and life insurance, retirement planning. He talks about the idea of whole life insurance in part of your portfolio is having the death benefit there, so that you can spend what you've worked for. Yep. When you pass, the death benefit comes in to replenish. Yes. So you've worked your whole life. You've built up a nice nest egg. You've gotten good growth in your portfolio, however that looks to you, in whatever ways you chose. And then you've gotten to enjoy that. You've gotten to travel. You've gotten to add on to the house or, buy that Mustang. I mean, I was behind somebody not too long ago. It was an older guy. I can't remember. It was like a Camaro or, a Mustang. And I'm like, heck yeah, man. Like, you did it. It took you till you're retired, but man, you're driving the car you probably wanted your entire working career. Awesome. I could have got out at the stoplight and give him a high five or something. I would have, but I mean, it's just like, that's awesome that he made it happen, and, sometimes they're the slower drivers on the road, even though they got the fastest car, which I chuckle at, but that's a side point. But, you could do all those kind of things. You can enjoy life. That's what we're here to do. Experience life, to travel, to be with kids and family. And I spoke about this in other videos. Part of one of my hard lessons this year has been, I was pushing really hard to work enough to where I could get my time freed up. And my dad passed away earlier in the year. And I kind of learned like, oh, maybe I should be living life now, not putting it out to this point in the future, thinking everything that I know of it today is going to be the same in the future. Maybe I just need to live more now, and things will take care of themselves down the road. And so the death benefit part of whole life insurance can come in at the end and, basically recoup everything that you've spent. So if you have a $500,000 portfolio and you blow through that, enjoying the heck out of your retirement, you've created all these memories with your kids and grandkids, and you've traveled and all this kind of stuff, and you're just enjoying life to the end. Number one, you're going to, as you mentioned, the stress level, you're going to be probably living longer and living healthier. You're going to have a better mindset. You're probably not going to have depression or a lot of these things if you're living life that way. And that's a total another video. But just knowing that, okay, I've spent all this and I've got a death benefit, maybe for the exact same amount, 500,000, that when I pass, that's going to go on to my heirs. And I know I can bless my kids and grandkids to start their life not over at zero to where they've got to start saving up money and like they've never worked before. I can bless them maybe with, 100,000 each or whatever the numbers would be. That is a powerful piece of the puzzle that you can't get that from any other financial product.
Right.
It's a multiplied transfer of money at death. Whatever you had in your policy in the cash value, it's more than that typically. The transfer, at least the way we design them, I'll give that caveat, that gets transferred to, if you have, $250,000 in cash value, you're probably gonna get 400,000 or 500,000 that transfers in death benefit. Again, variables and how it's set up, but that's the idea. There's more that goes there. Whereas a normal portfolio, if you have $500,000 in stocks and it goes to the next generation, well, there's a taxable event in there. So they're not going to get all 500,000. It's going to be less than that they actually get to start their life with. So it's just a very efficient way to transfer that. So that's a powerful point to what you were talking about. And it made me think of even another point around all this is, as I've been working with this client, it made me think, wow, this person has worked very hard their entire life, saving up, done a tremendous job of doing that. But I went and I had a term life insurance policy when my wife and I were married back in 2013. And then my whole life that I've had is my 7th year of my whole life policy. And I basically bought on the front end 90% or so of what this person worked their entire life to have, which is at the end of their life, what they could transfer to the next generation. Right. So like Garrett Gunderson talks about it in What Would the Rockefellers Do? It's buying your net worth. So I bought my net worth 7 years ago. I've been 31 when I bought the bigger whole life policy that gave me, I think at the time it was a $441,000 death benefit. But here's the cool part. I can't remember if you talked about this in the Dominican when we were together, or somebody had mentioned it recently. I was thinking it was you, about the rate of return of the death benefit. And that's something that nobody talks about. Like my death benefit now is over 600,000. I think maybe 660 or something like that. That's a 50% growth of my death benefit in 7 years. And it's not like I put in that same amount of cash value in my policy. Not even close.
Not even close. Yeah.
Nowhere near close. So what is the rate of return of that? We talk about the cash value growth, but what about the death benefit growth?
Sure.
I just increased the net worth in my family by 50% in 7 years with the death benefit growth by the way that we structure these policies. There's nothing on the planet that's going to do that for you. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And I did that in my 30s. I didn't have to slave and sacrifice until I was 65 to come up with, I think I'm a little short of maybe just over 900,000 between my term and whole life of death benefit right now. Like that's significant. I didn't have to work my whole life to try to accumulate a portfolio of 900 some thousand. I got it by buying it up front. And what that means for, my family is very game changing, because if I were to pass away today or tomorrow or whenever, that money goes to my family tax free. They start with that amount of money. Now, there might be a few debts to pay off or something like that, depending on business transactions and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I know my family's well taken care of, not just for the next few months. And my wife's got to go get 2 jobs and try to take care of the kids. Like, no. This is like next decade they're taken care of, very well. And they know what to do with the money if that happened. They know how to structure it to make sure that, that goes on and continues to go to work for the family for, maybe the rest of my kids' young life, who knows? So that's one of the big powerful points. Anything on the death benefit you want to share before I talk about that?
It's freaking awesome, man. It's one of those mindset shifts around personal finance, different financial products. The way that we're taught about them. Because what do we normally hear about whole life when it comes to the death benefit? It's so much more expensive than term, right? But the difference is the term isn't going to do anything for you. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have it. I'm not saying that, but most term policies don't pay out. So it's not going to be there when you need it the most, which is when you're much older, we're finally ready to kick the bucket and graduate this life. Well, that policy is gone. That death benefit is gone. Versus with the whole life policy, which I'll just throw this out as a side note. You don't have to pay into it your entire life, guys. You could pay into it for 7 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever you want. And then that thing is paid off just like a mortgage on your house, but it's going to continue to grow. The cash value and the death benefit is going to continue to grow without ever making another premium payment ever again. Now, I think it's so powerful what you mentioned, like buying the net worth and building your cash flow. Like, I think that's one. If I had to put something at the top 5 on my list of most powerful paradigm shifts that I've had going down this rabbit hole, that would absolutely be one of them. Because if you think about it, how long would it take? Just take whatever you're currently contributing to your portfolio right now. All right. How long is it going to take to reach $1 million? Think about that. Okay. Now, again, I'm not saying not to contribute to a portfolio. We're just putting things into perspective here versus if you were to buy a whole life policy, probably with a term policy on it, all right, to get to the $1 million, you could have that instantly. Like as soon as you're approved and the policy's issued, you have now just significantly increased the net worth of your family. How long would it take a portfolio of stocks and bonds to hit that $1 million mark? Jeff, I look at these numbers all the time. Most people never reach the $1 billion mark in their 401k or tax qualified plans, ever, regardless of how amazing the market is. And a big part of that is contributions, obviously. Okay, but the point is, if we could buy our net worth, focus on building the cash flow, let the death benefit be the legacy play. Like, do we care if we pass on stocks or real estate, or how about just net worth? We're just passing on net worth, and then they can do with it what they want, or according to the trust, however you set it up. But it seems to me that if we're talking about a legacy play, passing on something to the next generation, there's just nothing that even comes remotely close than whole life insurance. And when you take into consideration all the other benefits, all the other things that I can do in our personal finances, again, for me, it was a no-brainer. I just looking at all of these benefits. Yeah, I take a little bit of a hit in the first couple of years, takes a little bit to break even. That was about it for me, though. That was like the only potential, like if you could call it a downside, but it's like, it's not like we're just giving our money away. We're buying life insurance. There's a cost to that. So it's not like we just lose money out of thin air, right? But if that was that was like the only minor con for me, everything else just like smoked the cons, like all the pros of this thing, all the benefits that we get. It's a no-brainer to me, right? There's just too many benefits from it not to at least give it some consideration.
What's up, my fellow wealth creator? Thank you so much for checking out this clip from the Millennial Wealth Creator podcast. If you'd like to watch the full podcast, there will be a link down below in the description. Make sure to also check out the additional tools, training, resources that I have in the description as well, just to help you along your journey. Thanks again for checking out the clip, and we'll see you in the next one.